I played Palworld when it first came out, pretty much day one, I think, and I remember my thoughts on it being pretty negative. I'm gonna be honest, man, I don't know about this one. It was glitchy, extremely derivative, and overall just felt kind of like a sloppy attempt at combining a bunch of different games all into one. Then I played it for 100 hours. My thoughts are still exactly the same, but hey, I mean, that doesn't mean the game didn't turn me around in terms of fun factor. I haven't had this good of a time in a creature capturing game in, like, well, probably ever, I'm gonna be frank with you. There's not a lot of competition in the scene, and Pokemon... well, they're not really trying all too hard, are they? This might sound kind of creepy, but the joy I feel shotgunning a Lamball in the face and watching it speed downhill with rolling physics 3D Sonic could only dream of... well, there's nothing quite like it, and I mean that when I say it. What other game lets you do that? It's not that the game's particularly violent or anything, though. Said sheep-faced shotgunning only makes it faint as far as the knockout animation goes, and they still wobble around a bit, so, you know, it's like Mewtwo hyperbeaming a Pidgey. There's no actual killing involved in Palworld. It's weirdly safe as far as the violence goes. Wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? The game is constantly compared to Pokemon, and it does have similarities, what with the Palcomon you can catch in battle with, but it's all very surface level. The gameplay is entirely different to Pokemon, with the only real similarities being, well, you know, Jesus Christ. I think it'd be fun to start off by looking at the Pals in particular. There's been plenty of scrutiny and a fair amount of online arguments over the designs, and well, for good reason. I'm not gonna pretend Palworld hasn't ripped off Pokemon harder than I ripped off Jontron back in the day. There was also a lot of discourse surrounding whether or not models had been ripped, as in, like, taken straight out of Pokemon and then edited to make Pals. And as far as I'm aware, this isn't true, and also the whole thing about AI being used to make designs isn't true either, as far as I'm aware, at this point in time. I just want to make that clear before we go into this. If things change, but at the moment, that's my understanding of it. These are extremely obvious rips, like Cremus, which is just Gigantamax Eevee, but with wool. Honestly, kind of like it more than Eevee. Slander, I know, but like, just change the colors around a little bit, and hey, I mean, I'll take this over Eevee any day. It even has a little sleeping animation where it bundles itself up into its fluff, and like, damn, son, that's cute as hell! We've got the lovely Finglope, which, again, I like the design, but come on, man, at least change the colors. This is ridiculous. Cinderace's second cousin Verdash has come to visit. I thought I was having a stroke when I saw this thing in game. Same design, same proportions, same naming scheme, same sort of powers, except Verdash is a grass type. This is probably the worst of the worst right here. I don't know what they were thinking with this one. This guy's nasty all around. This thing's just a pissed off Esper. It's called Depresso, and its power is meant to be that it drinks energy drinks to go fast. Does it at least drink Gamer Subs so you can get 10% off using code RADICAL? Azerope here doesn't just rip off Superior with the body shape and its stance it's taken, but it goes one step further and straight up rips Primarina's hair from its skull. Same hair tufts and everything. The Palworld devs really just didn't give a shit, did they? Did they just kind of tell the artists, hey, make him look like a Pokemon? Like, you know, how fan regions do it with the new designs and ideas, but like in the Pokemon style, you know, as if it could fit in the Pokemon world, and then the artist got confused and just made this? I mean, it looks like a Pokemon. Well done, I guess. These ones were probably the most blatant rip-off Pals in my eyes. It's weird, because for every horrible, like, knockoff Palworld produces, it also, like, has a really neat, unique design all of its own. This is not one of them. This is Salazzle with a snatch sticker. Mosander's one I always think of. He's real neat. Although, personally, I think the name could use some work. It uses like a rocket launcher, a grenade launcher, as its special power thing. So, you know, just make that out of bamboo and call it Bamboom. Even works with, like, you know, onomatopoeia. Bam, boom. And it's bamboo, because, you know, pandas eat bamboo. I think that's a real good... That could be a Pokemon name right there. Bamboom. It rolls off, that shit's great. I don't care who you are, that's a great name. Beeguard and Elizabeth are pretty cool too. Raindrix looks great, Swee's cute, Lunaris, you gotta be real with me, you thought those were like butts too, right? Just for a split second. Dazzy's neat, Digtoise is pretty cool, what with the spinning spiky shell. King Packer, what an absolute champ. Mozzarina, the cow. Yeah, there are some stinkers sprinkled in here too. You know, designs that don't really do anything or too special or expand upon the fantasy aspects. My mind always immediately goes to Serpent. It's not the worst by any means. Like, it's just like a you know, a dragon kind of serpent thing, and we have a literal cow in the game, but I just don't like it. Eat dirt, Surfing. I hate you. More pals fall into this design category, you know, just kind of unique, but also nothing really all that special. You got Mamorist, which just has rocks on its back and grass, I guess. Rushaw, which is just a boar. Chickapee is just a chicken, you know, I mean, it's fine. And I thought Lamball fell into this category too. People were saying it was a Wooloo knockoff, and I thought they were just reaching real hard with that one. But why does it roll, if not copying from the soccer ball sheep line from Galar? Sheep don't roll. If you've ever seen a sheep like that, there is no reason for a fantasy sheep to roll other than if you were copying Pokemon's idea on that one. So anyway, those were like the two polar opposites of Palworld's PAL designs. You know, the absolute blatant ripoffs and the unique ones, all their own, with some of which are great, some of which are not so great, but I've neglected to mention the middle portion of them because that's the most fun part, trying to guess whether it's a rip or it's hip. Welcome to Rip or Hip, the game show where you try to figure out whether a PAL design has been ripped and flipped or is its own thing. It just kind of has a similar inspiration. And you don't participate, by the way. These are just my opinions. Starting off strong with Dire Howl. Wolf creatures are a dime a dozen in video games, and some say it's a coincidence that it looks so similar to Lycanroc. And good on you for believing in the developers, but they also made Verdash, so I'm just gonna say it's a rip. Up next is Ping Gullet. The audience says Piplup Rip, and I say, seriously guys, it's just a penguin. Get your head out of your ass. Robin Quill. Who let Galadan Decidui get it on in the daycare? It's even an archer. And again, the color scheme is a big old red flag on this one. This one's a rip and flip, no doubt. It's Bushi. This one's pretty original, but I just wanted to point out that it has Typhlosion's color scheme for some reason. I mean, it's too close to be a coincidence. In a game with Verdash, it can't be. It just can't. Not that there's anything wrong with this design. I just want to, nobody has talked about, and I just want to point it out. It's not that it's a bad thing that it has the same color scheme, and it could be a coincidence. It could be, but like, I don't know. I just want to. I don't know why my brain says pointing out. Come on, man. You got to say something about that. It's like there is much more to talk about than that. But for some reason, you know what? Let's just move on to the Grisbolt's clearly just an Electabuzz clone here, says the audience. I think the audience is blind. Slenderman wishes he could reach this far. Would have probably give Frostallion a pass if it wasn't for the long flowing hair and icy crown on its head. This one's a Suicune rip and flip, baby. Ike the Deer, I hope I'm saying that right, for some reason keeps getting compared to Xerneas. I don't know what to tell you. It's a fantasy deer, guys. Yeah, it does have the same inspiration as Xerneas, but it's a deer. It's gonna have antlers. I just don't see it. Hey, well, this one's a no-brainer. Gudra's body, Lilligant's flower, make it green, boom done. Slap on Meganium's head if you're feeling spicy. I actually redesigned this one myself in like 20 minutes just to point out how easy it would be to make designs that didn't look like a bunch of Pokemon parts stuck together. People got really angry for some reason, completely missing the point of the post. It wasn't to say, hey, look at my art, it's so much better than Palworld's. It was to show that it's not that hard to just, you know, not completely rip off designs from other franchises. Especially now with the huge success that Palworld's had, it'd be cool to see some of the more blatant rips like this be redesigned, even if just enough to not be immediately noticeable what the references were when modeling them. Some people got real upset, like, so what, I can shit all over Pokemon but not Palworld? Can we not just agree that both companies' practices aren't good? Pokemon's because they don't bother finishing their games, and Palworld's because they just kind of yoink. And that's all I really have to say about the PAL's designs. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. That's been done to death, so I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in here. As someone who loves creating creatures, especially ones that look like they could be from the Pokemon world, it just frustrates me a bit that the most successful creature capturing game in the last, I don't know how long, went about the designs the way they did. Hopefully it will improve with time. They have said they plan on adding more PALs, so I guess we'll see. Okay, so I've been made aware of PALs not quite in the game yet, but the ones that have been data mined. Yep, that sure is Black Mega Mewtwo Y. Oh, hello, Luxray! For their own sake, I hope the devs rework these guys, or just don't include them at all. It'd be kind of dumb to see them added like this after all the backlash. One thing I really love about the PALs in the game is the overworld abilities that they have to make them all unique. You know, gameplay-wise. Our great friend Verdash here adds the grass element to all of your attacks, even your bullets, and increases your ground movement speed by a substantial amount too. It's not like in other games where you get like a 5% speed boost and you don't really even notice it. This shit's like 20%, and then you can upgrade it with the PAL condenser up to like 40%. It's nice. It feels good to use. Some PALs increase your damage of the same type of PAL in your party, and it stacks, I think. Plenty increase your carrying capacity, something which I'll get to when I talk about the bases. Some PALs increase certain drop rates, so on and so forth, but the main attraction here are the active abilities. Some act like extra moves, like Thwack's Surfing Slam. What kind of a name is Thwack? Or Depresso's thing, where he drinks energy drinks. That's real. But some PALs need certain craftable equipment in order to use their ability. Jolt Hog turns into a throwable grenade. Lift Monk, terrible name, just awful. Jumps onto your head and fires a gun when you attack. For some reason, I don't know why they gave the gun to Lift Monk of all creatures, but I mean, if it works. Mosander, as previously mentioned, has a grenade launcher. Relaxaurus has a bunch of missiles he can fire out. But that's not all. Mounts! So many mounts! How I've waited for a game with rideable PALs. With rideable PALs. Not every PAL is a fast one, mind you, but I think that's great. It doesn't matter what speed the mount goes. If it's a choice, that's all good with me. I really mean it. This is good, I swear. The best Pokemon's been able to do with this sort of thing is have a select few Mons and Legends Arceus, which aren't even your Pokemon, and the legendary mount with Koraidon and Miraidon and Scarlet and Violet. And even then, you can't use it as a battling Mon and a rideable one at the same time. That is just ridiculous. Here in Palworld, I can send out my guy to fight, and then if I want, jump on its back and control its moves. It's great. Just great. It'd be real neat if there was like some sort of reason you'd want to ride on, like a Rushaw, for instance. At the moment, it's just kind of the faster the better, which is a little sad. There are a few PALs with good extra passives, like, for example, Raindrix stops you from overheating in hot environments, but for some, like King Packer, I mean, he's great and all, but when Kabala bitch is 40 times faster and can double jump, what's even the point of unlocking the saddle and the skill tree, man? There's a skill tree, by the way. Maybe if, for example, when you were riding King Packer, you had like 5 times the carrying capacity to balance it out for how slow it is. Or like with Rushaw, maybe when you were riding it, it could sniff out rare mushrooms, which you could use to cook special food or sell them for a high price. Maybe Packer's speed could steadily increase, assuming you didn't bump into something, you know, like constant acceleration. I don't know. I think stuff like this could be really neat, though, and I'd love to see, like, something implemented like that. Flying mounts exist, too, and they're pretty, I mean, I don't want to say overpowered, but as soon as you get one, traversing the landscape becomes really easy. Usually, if you stumble across a high-level PAL in an area that you're not ready for yet, you'll get your ass handed to you. But with a bird, you can just... Unfortunately, they're not super fun to use, unlike in a game like, I want to say Minecraft, because of the elytra, but that's stupid. But it's the only thing I can think of, so... The flying mounts here are super stiff. It's not like they're not responsive, per se, it's just the controls are very mechanical. Spacebar to go up, control key to go down, WAS to move forward, back, right, left. I'd much rather have a harder-to-control mount that can't hover, but, like, you know, can swoop and dive. It's kind of like a nimble aircraft from, like, GTA or something, I guess. Although I know it's a lot to implement something like that, so I'm not, like, docking points from the game or anything from not having different flying controls. It works. It's just you got to sacrifice some of that fun you'd have riding the land mounts for the added ease of just, you know, hovering to where you want to go with the flying ones. And the last kind of mountable PAL, get your mind out of the gutter, are the gliders. There's only a few, I think 4, and like the other mounts, there's not that much of a difference between them. Just, you know, again, how fast they are. Don't use the stupid-ass Stingray. Hangyu, however, lets you rise up into the sky as well as going like a fair distance. I mean, sure, the bird one is way faster, but if you do a slide jump, your momentum will carry you far, far into the distance, which will become the current scenery eventually, because you'll be there. Just don't run out of stamina hundreds of meters above the ground. Not a good look. Oh, dude, I think I'm dead. Oh, no, there's water. I'm alright. Again, special abilities for gliders would be great as well, just like Hangyu's. Celery's terrible right now, but, like, maybe it could go fast if you're over water. I don't know. Give it a big juicy ass. That'll get people to use it. Speaking of gliders and, you know, the fact that they're in a lot of open world games now, I suppose we should address the memoirist in the room. I hate this thing. Yeah, it's pretty obvious to anyone who's played any games at any time at all that Palworld is a bit of a mishmash of several different games. It's not like the developers haven't been, you know, inspired by other games before. Look, just take the Pokemon and Pokeballs from Pokemon, the glider from Breath of the Wild, the base building from Ark, the climbing from Breath of the Wild. What a great place to start a base. The boss platforms from Elden Ring, the stamina bar from Breath of the Wild. Screw it, you know what? Just take the sound effects and text shit from Breath of the Wild 2. Who's gonna notice, right? The game is fun, don't get me wrong. It'd be hard not to make a fun game by taking all the fun stuff from other games and mashing it all up into one. But maybe, you know, give it its own style. I mean, back in the day, you had Fortnite swivel into being a battle royale after the success of PUBG, which for some reason is now called PUBG Battlegrounds. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And it's very clear, even from the first season, Fortnite had its own thing going on. You're not going to find similar looking assets between the two games. Palworld, on the other hand, you can make direct comparisons pretty easily. Even the fast travel points kind of look like the Genshin Impact statues. And Genshin Impact was already taking a bunch from Breath of the Wild, so. The success of Palworld has made me hopeful that other companies are going to look at making their own creature capturing games, like what PUBG did for the Battle Royale genre. Sure, we'll get some horrible microtransaction-filled garbage, but maybe we'll get something good a few years from now. Who knows? Any competition to Pokemon is a really good thing. You know me, I love Pokemon, but they need a kick in the ass real bad. And if that does happen, maybe they'll implement some changes and actually make a finished product for once. You know, let me ride my Tauros in the open world, or my Rhyhorn, or Rapidash, or Lopunny, or Cyclizar. I still can't really believe that's not an option in Scarlet and Violet. I mean, I get it, we get the quote-unquote bitter Cyclizar, but sometimes you want to take a step back and not abuse your main character status. Let Wooper water my berry trees at the base, and Slugma help out with cooking Togepi in the fire. I'm not asking to shotgun a Snubble and stab a Krabby, just give me some depth, man. Speaking of bases, I'd say that's the main focus of the game, which was an odd choice because they only work half the time. They're constantly improving the PAL AI, but for the vast majority of my time playing, PALs were constantly getting stuck in walls, picking up stuff and then immediately dropping it over and over again with various amounts of stuff relating to lovely sound effects, and then you try and help out, but you get over encumbered, and back then you couldn't move even slightly with an overfull inventory, so that was great. I found a shitload of stone outside my base one time, no idea how it got there. PALs will get stuck somehow outside the base, down a cliff, or even in your house, so they'll get sick and faint, or worse, depressed. Often PALs will just ignore a duty, so you'd throw them onto it, but there'd be a logging site. What logging site? And then you'd move it and they'd go, oh, that logging site. Yeah, I'm gonna log for like 15 minutes and then finish off those 700 hours I asked a different PAL to make 10 minutes ago with my one handiwork, so it's gonna take 7 billion years. Don't even think about making your base multi-story. Throw a PAL and it'll just zip through the floor, and then you guessed it, get stuck. There's so many PAL X base glitches, there's no way I'd ever be able to list them all. What the heck is going on here? Who the hell does this guy think he is? Building a base isn't a cakewalk either. You can't overlap anything, which makes sense, but the weird hitboxes still don't want to get close enough to the walls a lot of the time, which is great when you've got a bit of furniture that's meant to be flush with the wall. Stupendous shit. Often interactable stuffs like chests, furnaces, and crafting tables have really weird points you gotta interact with in order to use them, especially when like PALs or stuff is around. Oftentimes it'll be like, oh, you wanted to pick up the 6,000 stone, not open up the fucking chest, right? It's real frustrating. Speaking of frustrating, if you want to put the triangle wall under the stairs to make it look good, first you gotta get rid of the stairs. And don't even get me started on the stairs, Jesus Christ. Forget about connecting them to a foundation if you want to go up. Nope, you gotta only attach it from the roofs or the top of foundations, and the foundation. Sometimes you can clip them into the landscape, and other times, fuck you! Occasionally your base will get raided by certain groups of either PALs or people. We'll get to them later. And you can build equipment to help push back the invaders, like machine guns your pals can use, traps like mines, and you can build fortifications, so again, your pals can get stuck outside the base. Just stay inside, it's not that hard! But I found the best defense against invaders is just shoving all your pals into the box and shooting them in the face. The invaders, not your pals. The raiders won't attack your base unless you've got fortifications to stop them coming in, and after a while they just kind of give up and run away anyway, so... Sorry, you might be able to hear my 3080 struggle to run fucking Palworld. You can also catch any PALs in the raids, which is great because this one's really rare, actually. Huh? The game's in early access, you might have been able to guess. I don't know if I've ever played such a glitchy game before, but then again, I haven't really played all that many early access titles. That's right, 6 Nights at Freddy's, kick that guy's ass, we've got this. Just let me reload real quick. Give me a second, this thing takes a lot of shells. Woo! Nice job, Snap! Give me a second there. Ooh, ancient civilization parts. Ah, alright, time to head on home. Am I just jacking this thing off? Sometimes you just fall through the ground. No reason. Hi, welcome to Palworld. Eat shit and die. One time I got stuck under the map with no way out other than just to give myself a heart attack. Like, I get it, that's badass, but it's wholly annoying as well. Self-unaliving's great for fixing many problems of the game, actually. HUD's glitched out? Just become dead. It's so easy. The only time it didn't help out is when I couldn't sleep because the game thought I was still fighting one of the bosses way across the map. Well, that and the time my glider decided not showing up was the plan for today. This was after the gear glitch was patched where you could equip an armor as a glider, so I don't know what the hell was going on here. The Sonic 06 Silver Strat lives on, baby! It lives on! Lack of living also turned out to be my most common way of transport late game. You can't teleport on the fly, not even just to your bases, so if you're a little too far away from the nearest quick travel point, you know what time it is. Christ, I'll tell you, this game loves falling through the floor so much, even the pals are getting in on the action. Funnily enough, the pals themselves get the opposite treatment. They don't fall through the floor, they fly to the sky! Going back to the whole early access thing, another little tidbit I'd like to mention is that until recently, the collectible that increases your catch rate only did that in visuals alone, meaning an 80% chance catch was actually something like 30% or something, or at least that's how it felt. Great that my friends finally started an SMP right when they fixed that, so my nights are trolling around looking for Liftmonk. Terrible name, just awful. Statues was a huge waste of time. Thanks, guys. Having a reset does remind me, I haven't mentioned the leveling up system yet. You get XP from catching stuff, building shit, and killing dudes, and then you can put points into different stats. Don't put your points in anything but weight and stamina, the rest are worthless. I mean, some people say put it in HP, but if you're a baller like me, you never get hit anyway, so. I kept hearing people mention not to put your points in defense, but like, the game won't let me? Does this mean other people are able to put points in defense? That doesn't sound right. Work speed might look tempting. You'll practically be jumping for joy with how fast your crafting speed gets, but your pals will end up doing 99% of the crafting and production anyway, so there's really no point in leveling it up. Sir, can I help you? Leveling up also gets your tech points, and every level up until 50 unlocks another tier in the technology tree. The tech tree is where you can unlock all the neat saddles and stuff so you can show off your new mount to all of your friends. When the game works. You can also find items to give you extra tech points in dungeons which litter the landscape. They're nothing too special, a couple of pre-made rooms connected together with various pals, human enemies, mining nodes, treasure chests. Fake lava. You run around a little aimlessly until you stumble across the boss fight, which you can choose to either kill or catch. Or the third option, imprisonment. I don't think the dungeon bosses have any sort of special buff or anything compared to the regular versions of their species, but they're big like Alpha Pokemon in Legends Arceus, which is neat. Okay, so apparently the game's bugged. You can't throw out pals, can't change weapons. That's great, that's fine, I'm good. There are the other Elden Ring style bosses I mentioned before littered around the map as well. You can catch these too, but the main point of them is to be grinded, I think. You know, assuming your pal decides to help out. Come on, Hogwild, you meant to go Hogwild! Same with the overworld bosses too. You can get special blueprints which allow you to craft stronger versions of existing weapons and armor. Unfortunately, it's not like an unlock system. If you want to craft the blueprint, you have to have it in your inventory at the time, which kind of sucks, but it's not like a huge deal or anything, as you'll generally be able to sell all your previous stuff once you unlock the next tier for a bit of extra cash. Speaking of cash, you don't only get blueprints from the bosses in the world of Pal land. They'll drop high-value items too, which can only be sold. I mean, or discarded if you're stupid. You can sell them to wandering traders that'll occasionally pop up here and there. They generally don't have anything super interesting to buy, but if you're lacking like horns for medicine or something, they're pretty handy to find. Or you can simply go to a settlement and find the wandering trader there. Not really wondering if he's always in the same spot. There's also a pal merchant located somewhere in the settlements too, so if you're struggling to find like something in particular and you want to get a new pal you might not have seen yet, it's nice to have a look every now and again, because they do rotate out their inventory. That's what I'm trying to say. But if you really want the special pals, you gotta find the black market pal dealer, who's usually out of the way like on a cliff or in a mine. Usually he'll have a wider selection than Courage the Cowardly Chicken over here. And you can also sell pals you don't need to him. Although I can't help but feel a little bad selling them to the black market dude. I mean, that smile kind of gives away what sort of plan he has in store for him. Of course, buying pals isn't the only easy way to get them. You could breed pals to make newer, rarer ones, or you could stop being a creep and just poach the shit out of them on the sanctuaries. Now, changing topic, I'll be honest and say I was addicted to Palworld for like a solid week and a half. I caught all the pals, I mean minus a few you can only get via breeding. I also caught the big legendary bosses you can find in the late game areas. Caught them even with the bugged Liftmonk, terrible name, just god-awful name, statue catch rate thing. I found a bunch of lucky pals, which are kind of like this game's version of shinies. However, as far as I'm aware, either they're much more common or it's just way easier to find them, what with the sound effect you can hear from a fair distance away. Are you kidding me? I finally find this bitch, and this is what I'm greeted with. Palworld update I did. Don't have this happen, you motherfucker. Lucky Pals don't have a different color, they're simply bigger than the average Pal. However, they do get a stat boost in attack and work speed, which is neat. I even managed to hatch a Lucky Pal, although for some reason it was just the regular size. I don't know if that's like a bug or not, possibly an oversight. Either way, it's not really a big deal. Big Pals tend to get stuck more often than the smaller ones in the bases. Flying Pals are the worst, though. I swear, every time I come back to my base, it's always the Flying Pals stuck in the wall, starving to death, depressed with broken bones. My brother in Christ, what are you stuck on? You can fly above the land! Yeah, lucky Lambo! Oh! I uncovered every inch of the map, even went over to that big-ass tree I've been wanting to see ever since I started the game up. Oh, you fucking kidding? Well, you can explore every inch of the map other than the big-ass tree part. There's not really all that much to see, I'm gonna be honest. Dungeons, bosses, and pals are the main draw here, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not expecting Breath of the Wild quality and secrets from an early access game less than half the price, although that's harder said than done when it feels like the game wants me to be thinking of Breath of the Wild. The loop here kind of reminds me of Legends Arceus a little bit. I mean, you want to catch a bunch of the same pals, here for the EXP bonus instead of lock-in progression behind it. Find the alpha pals to battle and collect resources along the way. Except in Legends Arceus, there was no leveling up your character, no writing your own pals, no dungeons, nothing to fucking do. I don't like this game. I think it's bad. In terms of graphics, because I haven't really mentioned them, I mean, the game looks fine, better than Pokemon, but, you know, I've played PS2 games with more environmental detail than Pokemon. Some textures look good, and then some look like they were ripped straight out of Ocarina of Time. About what I would expect for a game that runs the way it does. That is very poorly. Again, every time I boot this game up, I hear my graphics card scream in pain. Going back to what I did in the game. Took a little detour there talking about the graphics. I challenged all of the tower boss fights, which I've neglected to mention up until now. I only beat 2 of them properly. I wanted to wait to finish them with my friends, but they sure are there. And I mean, they're all pretty much the same, just with different people and pals. Each of them belong to different factions, kind of like the evil teams in Pokemon, but they all function exactly the same, except for the police guys who I encountered when I went and, you know, acquired some rare pals on that Sanctuary Island. There's the Rain Syndicate, led by the first tower boss, Zoe. Oh, here she is now. Yeah, she's pretty chill. These guys apparently poach pals, although they're never at the Sanctuary Islands. They just kind of catch them out in the overworld like we are, so I don't know what the problem with that is. You can find the little encampments with an imprisoned pal stuck in a cage, which you can free, capture. Look, man, I don't know about you, but like every time I come back to my base, something's gone horribly wrong. I don't know if this thing's safer with me exactly. There's the Free Pal Alliance, led by Lily Everheart, which is a group apparently working for the protection of pals, but they act exactly the same as the Rain Syndicate, cages and all. I mean, you find them out in the overworld and they'll be beating the crap out of any pals that wander too close. Honestly, code-wise, I think they're just the Rain Syndicate with a different skin and crossbows instead of guns. The Brothers of the Eternal Pyre led the volcano-y landscape led by Axel Travers. What a stupid-looking ass. And they're pretty much the same as the Rain Syndicate too, except they have flamethrowers. I thought they even were the same guys at first. Apparently they're pal fanatics, but again, cages. I don't know why they bothered making different factions, to be honest. The PIDF, or Palpagos Islands Defense Force, are the police guys I mentioned earlier, led by the weirdly uncanny man. I feel like he's meant to be attractive, but there's no soul behind those eyes. If you commit a crime like accidentally hitting someone with a pickaxe... Was that fucking Metal Gear? Don't worry, I've got a human shield. Oh, he's off. Ever explore a cave? Yeah, I've spelunked a bit. They'll spawn behind you like in Cyberpunk 2077 and won't stop until you're dead. You can run as much as you'd like. They'd rather drown than see your bitch ass go unpunished. Go, you know how to get rid of a wanted... I'm sorry. There is actually, or at least there was, it could be patched by the time this video comes out, a glitch with these fellas. You could aggro them and then head into a tower boss fight, let them hit the boss a bit, and then just kind of... That's right, Lily, plant my lettuces. That'll teach you to be the Peter of Palworld. The last group, the Pal Genetic Research Unit, or PIGRU, are led by Victor Ashford, and again is just a group that'll shoot on sight, and they angry to pals, they shoot them too. They don't do anything substantially different. No encampments as far as I can tell, but that might just be because they're making their own pals, namely an artificial pal, Shadowbeak, which is very clearly based on the Type Null Arceus link. I mean, it looks different enough, but that midsection gives us a pretty good guess as to what was going on here behind the scenes. There's also text logs scattered around the overworld from the faction leaders to give you a bit of lore. Oh, here's one now. I didn't read this. I still haven't. I don't even know where the menu option is to open them. Who gives a crap? Now, I beat the first 2 tower bosses and checked out the other 3. I didn't bother beating them, as I said before. I would have had to grind unfathomable amounts of reinforced ingots for ammo. If you've played the game, you know what I'm talking about. I definitely think these fights are meant for multiplayer. They just have... They have a lot of health. It's actually super cool that multiplayer's a thing here, though. You can do all sorts of stuff. You make a base together while accidentally using up each other's resources, even though you lock your chest with a password. That's great. You can battle the overworld bosses, and if one of you captures it, the other one doesn't get jack shit. That's funny. Yeah, I get it, but it's a little frustrating. You can do dungeons together and share the chests at the end. If there's more than 2 of you, tough shit, I guess. And you can explore the open world together. Who knows what sort of incredible adventures you'll go on. Unfortunately, the multiplayer is the glitchiest part of the game. Single player, oh yeah, that's Glitch City, but multiplayer is a whole nother beast. Oh, okay, so apparently I'm completely dead, but also my friends can come and revive me. This isn't supposed to happen. I'm alive! Sometimes it's great seeing what wacky shenanigans the glitches are gonna cause, but other times it just kind of ruins the experience. For example, in single player, climbing is pretty solid, a little buggy sometimes, sure, but most of the time, it's good enough. In multiplayer, however, you can't even jump up a cliff. You just can't. The game doesn't allow it. Sometimes you'll climb up to the top and it'll just teleport you back down for no reason. That's not a funny glitch, that's just annoying. I feel ill. You'll come back to the server after like half a day and your pals will have made a suicide pact and drank all the Kool-Aid in your absence. I don't know why on earth they're all down here or why they're all dying, but now I gotta spend precious time and resources fixing their brains and curing their depression. Hurry up! Oh, hang on, man, my game's like dying. My computer's finally had enough of Palworld. What the hell is going on? What the fuck? I swear, falling through the ground suddenly becomes a heck of a lot more common once you log into a server. The rate I fall through the ground makes it feel less like a random event and more like an hourly quota. I've come to expect it at least once in each dungeon visit. Okay, so even though it's buggy as balls, I'd much rather have the multiplayer the way it is than not have it at all. The Palworld devs have more plans for it on the horizon, so I guess we'll see what comes of that later on down the line. But what I'd really love to see, you know, aside from fixing this, is proximity voice chat. Usually people are doing their own thing in Palworld, you know, base building, farming, catching pals. Would be neat to stumble across others while you're exploring, maybe do a little adventure together and then split off and do your own thing afterwards. That and it'd be like real funny to hear people get cut off when they die. It's the nut shack. It's the nut... They're so loud! I can hear it so clearly from this far away! It's weird. I know Palworld is unoriginal, bordering straight on plagiarism, and I know it's super buggy and jank, and I know I shouldn't really be into it, but it's weirdly fun, and I enjoyed my time with it. I think the loop of catching new pals, leveling up, and then making new items, equipment-based stuff, you know, the progression is what makes it so addictive. Every time I'd leveled up, I'd immediately head on over to the tech tree to see what new stuff I could make, especially if it was a bit of pal equipment. That was always fun. I can absolutely understand 100% why some people don't like the game or don't even want to try it out. I think if the devs redesigned a bunch of the aspects of the game, you know, like the rip-off pals, you know, just to make them more distinct from what they're clearly ripping off, and focus on creating really interesting and unique pals for future updates, along with, you know, maybe kind of steering away from the whole let's just grab a bunch of visual ideas from other games sort of mentality. They have the money now, I'm sure they could. I mean, I've got some semblance of faith that they could maybe turn it around. It just depends whether or not they want to. Judging from interviews, they just kind of want to make fun games, and that's great, but like, find your own style. I think that'll make the game look better in the eyes of, well, pretty much everyone as a result, and I think it will garner an overall much more positive reception. Honestly, I'm hesitantly looking forward to what Palworld does in the future. I really hope it's new and interesting stuff rather than just, you know, more pals, more dungeons, another area. Even Pokemon adds stuff with the DLC packs like the Dynamax Raid dungeons and the Pokemon Mind Control stuff. Would love to see additions to the gameplay rather than just more of the same. That'd be real cool. And I know they do have plans to add more gameplay features, but it just seems like the majority of them are PvP based, which I have nothing against. I'm just hoping for some more PvE stuff. Maybe some new modes of transport, like swimming pals are a thing, but once you get a flying mount, they become pretty much obsolete. And maybe a swimming mechanic in underwater sections, like in Final Fantasy XIV, could be a thing they could add. Like underwater underwater temples, dungeons, bosses, new pals. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a lot of stuff I'm talking about here, but hey, I mean, that just goes to show how much potential a game like this has, and again, how much Pokemon, sorry to repeat myself, has been squandering that potential. Once again, I send my wishes out into the ether that other companies will maybe jump on the creature collection bandwagon and make something truly high quality, and not some bullshit live service microtransaction garbage like, you know, Genshin Impact was for Breath of the Wild, or all those crappy Battle Royale games that came out. Maybe Nintendo will do like one big loop and the next Breath of the Wild game will feature Link catching Koroks and other such Hyrulean creatures and Zelda balls. Anything's possible. Actually, I wonder if they're doing anything like that, actually. Let me take a look. Oh, don't Google Zelda balls.